Welcome to your complete travel guide to Boston, Massachusetts. I'll show you everything from the best attractions to see, how to get around the city, the amazing world-famous seafood eateries, how to get booed mercilessly by pilgrims, where to watch grown men beat each other up on ice, visiting some famous dead people, and how to have the best time of your life in one of the most famous colonial cities in the world. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Boston, a city that's full of history, excitement, and amazing places to explore. Today, I'll take you on a tour of the best things to see and do in Boston. Whether you're into history, sports, or stuffing your face, this guide has something for everyone. The great thing about Boston is that it is an incredibly walkable city. You don't need public transport all that much to get by. But if you do, it's easy enough. I'll show you how to use the Boston Metro system towards the end of the video. But needless to say, it's incredibly easy and it's virtually no different to any other mass transit system you've used before. Boston is so walkable, in fact, that you don't actually need a map. Most of the attractions that you'll be interested in is on something called the Freedom Trail, which is this red outline here. This 2.5 mile long path takes you to 16 historic sites that tells you the story of America's independence. All you need to do is follow this red line and it will take you to Boston's most famous attractions. This red line is actually embedded into the road. So, all you have to do is follow the red brick road and look out for the gold markers which will point you to the nearest Freedom Trail attraction. I would sing the song "Follow the Red Brick Road", but I don't want to be sued by the Wizard of Oz. And I suck at singing. There's also plenty of maps dotted around the city, so you'll never really get lost. I suppose I better start at the first stop of the Freedom Trail, and it's the largest green space in the city. This is Boston Common, the oldest public park in America. It's a massive green space full of trees, gorgeous flowers, and it's also attached to Boston Public Garden, which has this lovely river running through it. It's nice to have a stroll here, especially on a nice day like today, and it's the perfect spot to relax right here in the heart of Boston. To the north side of Boston Common, you'll find this: the Massachusetts State House. This gold dome building is where the government of Massachusetts meets. It's one of the most recognizable landmarks in Boston, and it's free to go inside. Whilst you can show yourself around, I highly recommend that you take one of the free guided tours that happens throughout the day. It will take you around this amazingly decorated building, full of colonial architecture, beautiful stained glass windows, and the interior is something out of a royal palace. The highlights include the Great Hall of Flags. These are the flags that represent the cities in Massachusetts, the various stained glass windows and beautifully painted roofs, the House of Representatives, where all the politicians meet and vote on stuff. That's an impressive room. The Sacred Cod and the Holy Mackerel. I'm not kidding, it is literally a fish suspended in the air. You'll also get to visit the governor's office. There's this lovely meeting room. And my favourite, the Senate Chamber, where the Senate meets. Overall, given that it's completely free of charge to go inside, it's definitely worth at least an hour of your time to explore. The guided tour definitely comes recommended if you can get onto one, and that's free too. Go down the street following the Freedom Trail and you'll come across Park Street Church. This historic church played an important role in the abolitionist movement and is known for its tall steeple that you can see from all over the city. It's one of the older churches here in Boston, and for some reason it was completely closed every time I walked past it. I'm sure it's very lovely inside. Across the way, you'll find the old Granary burial ground. This is the final resting place to some of the most famous patriots in American history, such as Paul Revere, Peter Faneuil, John Hancock, and John Phillips, the first mayor of Boston. It's a fantastic place to visit if you're interested in American history. King's Chapel is one of Boston's oldest churches, and right next to it is the King's Chapel Burying Ground, where some of Boston's earliest settlers are laid to rest. It's a peaceful and historic site. Here's the Benjamin Franklin statue, located in front of Old City Hall. Mr. Franklin was born in Boston and became one of America's greatest inventors and thinkers. Be sure to snap a photo with the statue, but don't walk too fast along the Freedom Trail, as there's plenty of things to see here, such as theatres, bars, shops, etc., all worth exploring. Next, we have the old Corner Bookstore. It used to be a place where famous authors like Charles Dickens and Nathaniel Hawthorne used to visit. Sadly, it's not a bookstore anymore, it's been converted to a Chipotle. Such a waste. The Old South Meeting House is where the Boston Tea Party began. This historic building was a gathering place for people to discuss important ideas, and today it's a museum where you can learn more about colonial Boston. Inside, it's a pretty plain looking building, but the exhibitions and the members of staff definitely bring this old house to life. It's actually cool to hear the stories, especially about its history and the supernatural stuff that goes on in here. The Old State House is one of the oldest public buildings in the United States. It was the seat of the colonial government, and you can tour the building to learn all about Boston's role in the American Revolution. This iconic spiral staircase splits the building into two, and is home to various exhibits highlighting the history of Boston and the formation of America. Some of the most famous things in American history have happened right here in this building. Right outside the Old State House, you'll find the site of the Boston Massacre. This is where British soldiers fired into a crowd of colonists, sparking outrage and kickstarting the American Revolution. It's denoted by this giant bronze plaque on the floor. Keep on walking and you'll eventually come across one of Boston's most popular attractions, Faneuil Hall. It's a historic marketplace where people have been shopping and gathering for over 200 years. Inside, you'll find great food, unique shops, and quirky street performers. Particularly if you visit Quincy Market and North Market, these are home to some of the best eateries in the city. You'll find no shortage of places to eat or shop around here. Particularly if you want to try Boston's world-famous seafood, this is definitely the place to do it. Paul Revere's house is the oldest building in downtown Boston. This is where Paul Revere lived when he made his famous midnight ride to warn colonists that the British were coming. I didn't bother going inside, so no footage here. Old North Church is where the famous lanterns were hung to signal that the British were indeed coming. 1 if by land, 2 if by sea. This is where the phrase was coined, and it's a key part of Boston's revolutionary history. Copp's Hill Burial Ground is one of Boston's oldest cemeteries. It's a peaceful spot with great views of the city, and many notable Bostonians from the 1600s are buried here. But then cross the bridge over the water and you'll eventually reach the USS Constitution. Also known as Old Ironsides, this ship is the oldest commissioned warship in the world. It's cool that they've kept the ship virtually in its original condition, and you can see how life was back in colonial naval times, and what it would have been like when the ship was at war. This is definitely a must-see attraction along the Freedom Trail, and your tour guide is usually a member of the US Navy. The museum right next to it is free of charge, so if you are interested in the history of the USS Constitution and America's naval past, this museum is definitely worth it. The final stop on the Freedom Trail is the Bunker Hill Monument. This tall obelisk marks the site of the Battle of Bunker Hill, one of the first major battles of the American Revolution. Climb the 294 steps to the top for amazing views of Boston. I managed to reach this at the end of the day, and it looks really cool at night. If you were just to do the attractions on the Freedom Trail, you'll have probably seen quite a lot of what Boston has to offer. But there are plenty of other things that I recommend that you explore whilst you're here. If you've been to Bunker Hill, you've probably crossed the bridge over North Station, one of the main train stations here in the city of Boston. But it's also attached to this place, TD Garden. This is the indoor arena that's home to the city's famous sports teams, the Boston Bruins ice hockey team, and current NBA champions, the Boston Celtics basketball team. Both teams are world famous, and I recommend that you go and see them if they're playing. I'm not going to talk too much about this because I'll be making a separate video right here on my channel, but suffice to say that this is something you definitely have to check out if you're in the city during hockey or basketball season. The New England Aquarium is an awesome place to explore marine life. You'll see everything from penguins to sea turtles and a giant ocean tank that's filled with hundreds of amazing sea creatures. Chinatown is a vibrant district full of delicious food, cultural festivals and unique shops. South Boston, also known as Southie, is a neighbourhood with great views, plenty to see and rich history. It's a harbour district that's full of incredibly cool things. And if you're here on St. Patrick's Day, South Boston is home to the world-famous St. Patrick's Day Parade. Even though it's incredibly busy and the streets are packed, the parade itself is actually amazing. I love the fact that people are dressed the part, and everyone is here to have a fantastic time. The atmosphere is electric, and the people on the floats generally throw you free stuff. And this explains why I'm wearing so much crap on my face. What can I say? It was free. You'll marvel at the costumes, the pageantry, the dizzy dinosaurs, and you'll have an amazing time here. It does come exactly as advertised, and if you ever wanted to experience St. Patrick's Day in the city of Boston, seriously consider booking your trip now. But if the St. Patrick's Day Parade isn't on, an equally cool thing to do is to visit the Boston Tea Party Ships and Museum. Located right here on the waterfront, it's a live reenactment of the story of the Boston Tea Party. How the early Americans protested against us Brits by throwing our precious tea into the river at this very spot right here. You'll get to learn the incredible story behind this historic and disgusting act of treason, how dare you, go and explore the ships themselves, and you even get to throw the tea off the ship if you want to. If you do go, don't ever admit to being British like me, otherwise you'll be the butt of all their jokes and be booed mercilessly at every opportunity. But it's all good-hearted fun, and I thoroughly enjoyed my time here at the Boston Tea Party Ships and Museum. Right next door, the Boston Children's Museum will keep your kids entertained in one of the wackiest kids' play museums I've ever seen. But as you walk along the harbourfront, the Boston Seaport is full of shops, restaurants and stunning views of the harbour. It's infinitely nicer in good weather of course, and it's a great place to enjoy seafood and take in the beauty of the city and the water. Speaking of seafood, Boston is world famous for it. Around the seaport, you'll find some of the most fantastic seafood in the city. You'll have no shortage of options here. But please don't leave Boston without trying New England clam chowder or Maine lobster rolls. The three places I recommend that you go and eat, if your budget allows, is firstly the Boston Public Market. There are some eateries that serve unique foodstuffs that I've never seen in my life, and they're definitely worth a try. The next is the Union Oyster House along the Freedom Trail. It's been operating continuously since 1826, and inside it definitely shows. Very old colonial decor in here. I had the oysters and a New England clam chowder with cornbread. Absolutely amazing food and definitely worth the expense. The final place I highly recommend is the Neptune Oyster Bar. Voted as the best oyster bar in the world, it's certainly not cheap, but the food is fantastic. They're famous for their award-winning Maine lobster rolls, and trust me, I've never had lobster that tasted this good. This lot set me back about $60, and as crazy as this sounds, I thought it was worth every penny. The atmosphere here is superb. You can talk to random strangers whilst you're eating, and you'll enjoy the fantastic service, especially from this beautiful lady right here. If that's a bit too rich for your blood, there's plenty of other places around the city where you can try seafood on a budget. If you travel to the west of Boston, you'll come across a few world-famous attractions. The first of which is the Boston Museum of Fine Arts. As you can imagine from the name, it's an art gallery, one of the world's best. And if you are into that sort of thing, the Isabella Gardiner Museum is also worth a look. Both museums are full of beautiful paintings, sculptures and historic artifacts. The Back Bay Fens is a lovely green space particularly if you want to get away from the noisy city. Cool memorials here as well. But just north of that, you'll find one of the most famous baseball stadiums in the world. This is historic Fenway Park, the home of the city's baseball team, the Boston Red Sox. This is a great place to catch a baseball game or a stadium tour. I'm not going to talk too much about that because I already made a video right here that you can watch if you're interested. But if you are a baseball fan, or if you're just curious, this definitely comes highly recommended, especially during baseball season. As you're walking back towards town, you'll come across one of the largest buildings in the city. This is the Prudential Tower. It's attached to a shopping mall, so you can go shopping while you're here, but the best thing to do is to pay for tickets to go to the top of the observation deck. Here you get a 360-degree view of the entire city of Boston, and it's definitely worth it. Some observation decks I've been to simply aren't worth the money, but this one certainly is. I particularly like the outdoor bits, the fact that they've got a cookie bar, and also this 360-degree projection that makes you feel like you're completely surrounded by the entire city. Well worth the money. Eventually, you'll walk down Newbury Street and Commonwealth Avenue. These are two very long streets that are made up of all of these terraced brownstone houses. There's places to shop around here, and people speak very highly of this place. But personally, I think this isn't much different to any other street that you'd find in mainland Europe. Maybe you can find something a bit more special about this street than I did. Something that is special is the Boston Public Library. Open to the public and free of charge to go inside, it's home to one of the most famous rooms in all of Boston. It's surreal to be walking through a historic and famous library when there's a whole bunch of students trying to study. To them, this is probably a normal everyday sight. But to me and you, this is a cool old library. Around here, you'll come across three famous churches: the Trinity Church, the Old South Church, and the First Church in Boston. Sadly, none of them were actually open when I went, due to construction or closure. I hope they're open when you get to visit. Just before you arrive back to Boston Common, you'll come across a place where everybody knows your name. This is the Cheers Bar, the most famous bar in all of the town. It's the location of the hit TV show Cheers, and when you go inside, it's pretty much exactly as advertised. It definitely doesn't look exactly the same as what you see on TV, but close enough. You can also buy Cheers merch and have a dinner and a drink here for nostalgia's sake. Boston is a university town, and several of the country's top universities call Boston home. If you're prepared to get on the metro and travel for a little bit, you'll come across two of the most famous universities in the world. The first is Harvard, the #1 ranked university in the United States. The grounds of Harvard are definitely worth walking around. Even though you can't actually attend classes here, you can certainly visit quite a lot of their museums, most of which are free of charge and open to the public. I almost feel a little bit smarter walking around here, but not by much. I almost feel as smart as this wild thing roaming around the grounds. The other university you'll come across is MIT. It's definitely a lot more modern than Harvard is, and it's certainly worth walking around if you have the time. And wherever you are at MIT, you get this lovely view across the river. That pretty much covers the entire city of Boston. But there's a couple of other things that you might want to visit if you have a car or if you're prepared to travel outside the city limits. The first is Gillette Stadium. Located in Foxborough, Massachusetts, which is about a 40-minute drive south of Boston, this is home to the New England Patriots, the NFL American football team here in the city of Boston. Now, you can't actually go on a stadium tour, given that the stadium is continuously in use, but what you can do is visit the Patriots Hall of Fame. If you're an American football fan, this comes highly recommended. You get to see the history of the Patriots, some of their game-worn uniforms, particularly of the legend that is Tom Brady, football memorabilia, trophies, Super Bowl rings. It's a sports fan's absolute dream, and it's definitely worth the 40-minute detour outside of Boston. And finally, if you have a day to spare, take a short trip north to Salem, Massachusetts. Known for its spooky history, and the infamous Salem witch trials, this town is full of unique attractions and museums. And it really is quite a quaint place to visit, especially if you come during Halloween. It's one of the most important historical towns in the US, and if you want to learn more, I've actually made a separate video right here that you'll find on my channel. Overall guys, whether it's visiting the historical sites, eating the amazing seafood, watching the tremendous sports teams, or being part of the St. Patrick's Day Parade, you have to come to Boston at some point in your life. And I hope this video guide inspires you to do just that. Okay Nin, I'm sold. What do I need to do? Well, you need to come here to Boston, Massachusetts. The nearest airport is Boston Logan International Airport, located to the north of the city. When you arrive at the airport, the easiest way to get to downtown Boston is simply by using the MBTA transport network, also known as the T, and this includes the subway and the buses. To use it, simply find one of these ticket booths at any station, select your language, and I recommend that you buy an all-inclusive travel pass for the number of days that you're going to be here. Once you've paid for it, it will spit you out something called a Charlie card. Simply walk to a turnstile, press the Charlie card into it, walk through, and away you go. It's simple to use, and the metro system is no different to any other mass transit system that you've probably encountered before. And here in Boston, it's incredibly well organised. It's easy to get around the place, there's plenty of maps, and it's damn near impossible to get lost on this network. Whilst you're in downtown Boston, you generally don't need it, but it's nice to have if you can't be bothered walking. To use the Charlie card on the buses, it's a very similar procedure. Walk onto the bus, press your card against the scanner, and away you go. Really easy. The two main train stations are North Station, located to the north of downtown Boston, and South Station, which is located, surprise surprise, in the south side of downtown. You can drive here, but there's not that many places to park, and you'll be paying an absolute fortune in car parking charges. So if I were you, and if you're a tourist, stick to public transport and you'll be fine. The cost? Well, admittedly, Boston's not the cheapest place in the world, but it's certainly more cost effective than New York. The attraction prices are reasonable enough depending on what you want to do, but the food and drink prices can be quite pricey, especially if you're ordering seafood at some of the more iconic places like the Neptune Oyster Bar. So please bring plenty of money, and if you are on a budget, try and stick to all the free attractions that I mentioned in this video. If you're looking for a place to stay, Boston has some incredible hotels which are within walking distance of the Freedom Trail and everything that's interesting around Boston. The further away you are from downtown Boston, the cheaper the hotel prices become. So if you are on a budget, consider staying outside of the downtown area and use the metro system to get in and out of the city. Is there anything else I need to know? Yes. If you're lucky enough to visit Boston for the St. Patrick's Day Parade, please note that it's incredibly busy. The metro system is massively overloaded, and it will take you a while to get anywhere. It's a really fun atmosphere, but please do be patient, as there are over 1 million other people on the streets looking to do the same thing. Even though I've mentioned several times in this video that you don't need a map to explore Boston, I recommend that you download an offline map to your phone, or visit the visitor centre right next to Boston Common for a free paper map in the rare instance that you do get lost. Given that Boston is by the sea, the weather can change at the drop of a hat. These two clips were literally an hour apart, so please be prepared for all weather conditions. And finally, check out my other related Boston attraction videos if you're interested. Thanks for watching this complete Boston guide. I hope this has helped you plan your trip to Beantown, and if you have enjoyed this video, it would help me out massively if you like and share this video to your social media pages. Be sure to tweet at me also, but thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next episode.
Thank you very much, thank you.
Versus rules everything, right? It's still like that?
Oh yeah. Huzzah.